Hello and welcome back to Lingering Light, your sanctuary for finding a steady pulse in a fast-moving world. I am so deeply glad you found your way to us tonight. Tonight, we are opening the private journals of the most powerful man of his time, the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius. But we aren't looking at him as a conqueror or a king. We are looking at him as a tired soul who, nearly 2,000 years ago, sat in a military tent on the edge of a dark forest and wrote letters to himself. These writings, known as meditations, were never meant to be published. They were his spiritual pep talks, the honest, raw, and often funny struggles of a man trying to stay good in a world that felt like it was falling apart. Marcus teaches us that our mind is our only true home, a citadel that no external storm can shake. He reminds us that even an emperor has to argue with his blankets in the morning, and that the secret to a meaningful life isn't found in a crown, but in the quiet decision to do your duty with a smile. To help us bring this Stoic wisdom to life, let's meet General Frank Grumpy Miller. Frank is 82 years old and a retired brigadier general. In his prime, Frank could move an entire division across a desert with the snap of his fingers. He lived by the clock, the chain of command, and a zero-tolerance policy for slacking. But now, Frank's biggest battle isn't with an opposing army, it's with his own duvet. Retirement has hit Frank like a heavy fog. Without a parade to lead or a mission to plan, Frank has found himself wondering why he should even bother getting out of bed before noon. He's become a world-class grumbler, treating his bathrobe like a suit of armor and his TV remote like a scepter. That is, until his granddaughter, a philosophy major with a sense of humor, left a copy of Marcus Aurelius's Meditations on his nightstand with a sticky note that read, "Even emperors hated Mondays, Grandpa. Read page 41. It was 7:15 a.m. The sun was peeking through the curtains of Frank's bedroom in a quiet suburb of Virginia. Frank pulled the covers over his head. "What's the point?" he grumbled to the pillows. "The world is going to hell in a handbasket, my hip hurts, and I've already read the newspaper twice. I'm staying right here until 2027. He reached for his glasses and opened the book to the marked page. There, he read the words of the emperor. At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work, as a human being. What do I have to complain of, if I'm going to do what I was born for, the things I was brought into the world to do? Or is this what I was created for? To huddle under the blankets and stay warm?" Frank snorted. "Well, Marcus, it is quite cozy under here. And I'm 82. I think I've earned a huddle or two." All right, Frank muttered, swinging his legs over the side of the bed. "If the spider is punching the clock, I guess the general can, too. I'm getting up. But I'm not happy about it, Marcus." Frank walked into the kitchen and realized he was out of his favorite dark roast coffee. Then, he stepped in a cold puddle of water near the dog's bowl. His blood pressure started to climb. Usually, this would trigger a Frank Con 1-level tantrum. He remembered Marcus's advice, our soul should be like a promontory of rock on which the waves break incessantly, but it stands unmoved and around it the seething waters sink to rest. A rock, Frank. Be a rock, he told himself. A rock doesn't yell at a dog for being a messy drinker. A rock doesn't lose its mind over a lack of caffeine. Thoreau, no, Marcus, writes, things do not touch the soul, but stand exterior to it and at rest. Disturbances come only from within, from our own opinions. Frank realized that the coffee-less morning wasn't a tragedy. It was just an external event. The only thing that could actually ruin his day was his opinion of the event. "My command center is intact," Frank whispered, pouring a glass of water instead. "The enemy has captured the coffee beans, but they have not captured my peace of mind. Tactical retreat to the porch, proceed with hydration." He felt a strange sense of victory. He had defeated his own anger before breakfast. It was a smaller victory than a desert campaign, but it felt remarkably satisfying. Frank's next challenge arrived at 10 a.m. in the form of his neighbor, Mr. Henderson. Henderson was a man who could find a problem even on a sunny day and enjoyed discussing his gallbladder surgery in excruciating detail. As Frank saw Mr. Henderson approaching the fence, he felt the urge to retreat indoors. But Marcus Aurelius had a specific exercise for this, Begin the morning by saying to yourself, I shall meet with the busybody, the ungrateful, arrogant, deceitful, envious, unsocial. All these things happen to them by reason of their ignorance of what is good and evil. I can neither be injured by any of them, for no one can fix on me what is ugly, nor can I be angry with my kinsman, nor hate him. He's not a busybody, Frank, he coached himself. He's just a man who is confused about what makes a good conversation. He's your kinsman in the messy family of humanity. Mr. Henderson spent 15 minutes complaining about the city's leaf collection schedule. Frank didn't roll his eyes. He didn't interrupt. He just listened, realizing that Mr. Henderson's grumbling was like the barking of a dog or the sound of the wind. It was just nature. The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury, Marcus wrote. Frank decided that his revenge would be kindness. He asked Mr. Henderson how his garden was doing. The old man's face softened. The battle at the fence ended in a peace treaty. Frank walked away feeling like a true emperor of his own emotions. By mid-afternoon, Frank found himself slipping into his favorite old man hobby, worrying about the past and fretting about the future. He thought about the mistakes he'd made in his career. He worried about his health next year. He opened the meditations again. Remind yourself that it is not the future or the past that weighs on you, but always the present. Past and future have no power over you. I'm 82, Frank mused. I've been spending all my time staring at the closed sign on the past and the coming soon sign on the future. I forgot to look at the now playing sign right in front of me. He looked at the sandwich he was eating. It was a damn good turkey sandwich. He focused on the crunch of the lettuce. He focused on the warmth of the sun on his arms. Every hour focus your mind attentively, on the task at hand, with dignity, sympathy, willingness, and justice, Marcus urged. Frank realized that the task at hand was eating his lunch and being grateful for the roof over his head. It was a simple mission, but he decided to execute it with the same dignity he used to use at the Pentagon. Toward evening, Frank felt a bit of the Sunday blues, even though it was a Tuesday. He felt small. He felt like a retired guy in a quiet house whose life didn't matter much anymore. Marcus had a remedy for this, too, the view from above. He liked to imagine looking down at the earth from the stars, seeing the vastness of time and space. Look at the past, the rise and fall of empires. You can see the future, too. It will be the same. To observe human life for 40 years is the same as observing it for 10,000. Frank imagined himself hovering over his neighborhood. He saw his house, then the city, then the continent. He saw the millions of people who had lived and died before him, all with their own morning calls and coffee crises. I'm just a tiny part of a massive, beautiful machine, Frank realized. My job isn't to be the star of the show. My job is to play my part in the great harmony until the director tells me the play is over. He didn't feel small anymore. He felt connected. He was a citizen of the cosmos. He wasn't a has-been general, he was an active-duty human being in the service of the universe. As the sun set, Frank sat in his favorite chair, the dog snoring at his feet. He thought about the end of the road. At 82, you think about it more often. Marcus Aurelius, who faced his own death with incredible calm, had the final word, you have functioned as a part. You will vanish into what produced you. Go then with a smiling face, for he who dismisses you is also smiling. Frank closed the book. He didn't feel afraid. He felt like a soldier who had completed a long, grueling, but honorable deployment. He was ready for the homecoming, whenever it might be. Well, Marcus, Frank whispered into the quiet room. You were right. The blankets were warm, but the day was better. I stood my watch. I kept the citadel. And I even managed to be nice to Mr. Henderson. He felt a deep, resonant peace. He was no longer grumpy Frank. He was Frank the Stoic. He was a man who knew that as long as he had his mind and his character, he had everything. Late in the afternoon, Frank happened to look out the living room window and saw his neighbor, Mr. Henderson, blowing a pile of dry maple leaves right across the property line onto Frank's freshly cleared lawn. In the old Frank era, this would have been a code red. He would have flung open the window and unleashed a drill sergeant roar. Henderson! Are you kidding me? Those are your leaves from your tree. Get your act together. He could feel that familiar heat rising in his chest, a spark ready to become a wildfire. But then, he glanced down at the book still in his hand. Marcus had a specific warning for moments just like this. How much more harmful are the consequences of anger than the circumstances that aroused them in us? Frank paused, his hand literally on the window latch. You've got a point there, Marcus, he muttered. If I blow my top right now, my blood pressure hits the ceiling, my heart starts doing the mambo, and I'll be sour as a lemon all through dinner. Henderson just moved some dead leaves, but I'm about to evict my own peace of mind. He stood there and observed his irritation as if it were a rogue soldier trying to breach the perimeter. The enemy is at the gates, Frank coached himself. But I'm not opening the door. I'm not paying the anger tax today. Marcus also wrote, kindness is invincible, provided it's sincere. For what can even the most malicious person do if you keep showing them kindness? Frank took a long, slow breath. Instead of shouting, he grabbed his own rake from the garage and walked outside. When Mr. Henderson looked up, expecting a fight, Frank just gave a little wave. The wind's really kicking up today, isn't it, George? Frank said calmly, starting to pull the leaves into a neat pile. Tell you what, let's just get these bagged up together before they end up in the next county. Good for the joints to keep moving, right? Mr. Henderson looked stunned. He stammered an apology and started raking twice as fast on his own side. Frank realized that by refusing to be injured, he had actually won the encounter without firing a single shot. He had saved his energy, his dignity, and his evening. Tactical shift, kindness, Frank chuckled to himself. Mission accomplished. Marcus, you're a pretty sharp strategist for a guy who's been gone for 2,000 years. My dear friends at Lingering Light, Frank Miller discovered that the greatest power an emperor, or a general, or a mailman, can have is the power over his own reactions. Marcus Aurelius tells us that the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. Tomorrow morning, when the sun hits your pillow and the bed feels like a warm embrace, remember Frank and his Roman friend. Don't just get up. Rise to the occasion. Rise to your duty as a human being. I have a question for you tonight. What is one external disturbance, a person, a broken appliance, a bodily ache, that you are going to treat as a wave breaking against your rock tomorrow? How will you keep your citadel calm? Share your Stoic strategies in the comments. Let's help each other stand firm. Until our next gathering, guard your thoughts. Do your duty. And stay in the light, the steady, inner light of the Stoics. Good night, dear friends. Stay firm. Stay light.